What up? What up? Welcome to Let's Cap. Got Munaf and Chris B capping with me here today. We only got 5 games on the slate. I got a couple bets in there, but yesterday we'll go back to yesterday. 3-1 yesterday. The loss was I had the Spurs. They gave it up in the fourth quarter there. Wizards ended up pulling that one out. I did take uh, who else did I have? Damn, I already forgot who I had. I had a couple of team totals. Team totals been treating me well, so kind of been sticking with those. I already forgot who I had, to be honest, but I went 3-1. Good bounce back off of a terrible Saturday. I skipped Sunday. I didn't like the slate that day, but Munaf, how's everything been going with you?
He hasn't been too bad. So no, the flows of sports betting goes up and down, but the week got started off pretty well yesterday. Went 4-1 yesterday. The only loss was the over
Nice.
in the Wizards and the Spurs game. I mean, like you mentioned, the Spurs gave it up in that fourth quarter. But other than that, I had the Thunder and Wolves under 223.5. Took the Suns on the spread and the money line, and then I had Jared Allen over 10.5 rebounds. So those worked out pretty well for me. So hopefully we can carry that momentum into this Tuesday card here, RC.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was a good 4-1. That's pretty good. Chris, how's everything with you yesterday?
Everything was good yesterday. Going back to Friday, I got smoked Friday. I went 0-4. It was a bad day. Worst day of the year so far on Friday. And played on Luka, like fading Luka on Saturday. The only play I played on Saturday was the Kings on the money line, fading Luka off the 73-point game and no rest. So I got a little bit of it back on Saturday. Sunday I took off as well. RC, it just was not a lot that I liked. And then yesterday, 2-0 day yesterday. I was also on the under with the Thunder and Oklahoma City Thunder, with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I also played on the Celtics. I bet against the Celtics and took the Pelicans plus the 8 yesterday with Porzingis being ruled out. So 2-0 day yesterday, 3-0 the last couple of days, and definitely looking to build on that for sure as well. So let's jump in.
That's good. Yeah, 2-0. So yesterday, these were the totals that I took. So I took the Knicks team total under. Got scary in the second half. They scored 44.
You're a brave man.
They scored 44 they scored 44 in the third quarter.
Jesus.
I was like, at halftime, I was like, man, this shit's a lot. But then I did take the under in the Grizzlies and Kings. And then after, obviously the Grizzlies were dealing with a lot of injuries. And then the Kings kind of not that great on the road, especially offensively. Then I had the Nuggets. So those were my 3 wins yesterday. All right, so let's get to the board here. First one up, Pacers and the Celtics. Real quick, I'm going to share my screen, and I want to show a new page that I have here. This is pulling from NBA.com, basically just, a lot of the key stats that we look at. So we have traditional, advanced, all these 4 factors, all these things here I tried to pull up, I worked with A. Wang. He's been on the show a few times. Zach Kedagiri is one guy that I almost talk to every day. He hasn't been on the show before, but he's one guy that I've been working with to pull this type of data. But all that stuff is in here. A lot of the key numbers and stats are brought into this page here. Also with some rankings, and then also this advantage piece is one thing that we're trying to work on here. Like just for example, I was kind of talking to Munaf about this, but for example, right here we see the Raptors 24th in the league in 3-pointers made, but the Bulls allow the 28th most. So we did some type of calculation here to say maybe, if for example, they would push them up to like 13th in the league based on their opponent, right? So you can see some of these here. Obviously, there's a heat map, so 28th being bad, dark red being bad, green being good. So you see points in the paint allowed, limits them there. But, one thing that we looked at here on this show before was the reason why they don't allow a lot of points in the paint is because teams are shooting a whole bunch of 3-pointers against them. So just things to look at, for a clearer view instead of going to all these different pages. So that's been super helpful for me. But obviously, we always have our killer sports up. So I just wanted to do a quick breakdown of what that table is showing, and then we'll kind of go through it as we go through the show. But for this game here, I didn't really have much. Munaf, did you have anything on this game here?
Not much. I was trying to get there with the Celtics here. I know they're on the back-to-back situation here. I know you and I were talking a little bit offline with Hallie being back here tonight for the Indiana Pacers in a limited capacity that it's kind of felt that it may kind of disrupt the offense of the Indiana Pacers if he's going to be playing limited minutes, because we've seen when Hallie's in the lineup for this team, this offense looks like one of the best in the league. And their foot is always on the gas, right? They're going to play with high pace, but uh, I was kind of looking also at the under RC, because if you take a look at the recent unders for the Pacers in their road games, I know they start off like 13-1 towards the over,
Yeah,
but they have
yeah,
significantly regressed back to the mean in their last, I don't know what, 10, 11 games towards the under. So
yeah.
Celtics was worth a look for me here. And then the under, there's a full game under or a Pacers team total under in this game here, RC.
Pacers team total under. Yeah. Well, what do you think about this one, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, perfect segue. You know, if I was looking at the under in this game as well, I like the full game under. But if I like the full game under, and I do lean towards the Celtics in this spot, I just didn't play it. I would look towards that Pacers team total to go under as well. I've mentioned it. So a couple of things I looked at was, I've kind of mentioned it this month specifically. Just kind of looking at it from a month perspective, because the Pacers did make the big trade to bring in Pascal Siakam. The Pacers are 6-1 to the under in road games this month. Right. And then in those spots, they only averaging 116 points. To me, this feels like the market, may have heard that Tyrese Halliburton was going to come back, who could be on some kind of minutes limit, some kind of restriction as well. So only averaging 116. We know that the Celtics are one of the better defensive teams in the league, but you look at the Celtics in this spot as well. I see we don't see high totals for the Celtics a lot of the times because they're such a strong defense, top 5 in pretty much every statistical defensive category. They could get Porzingis back in this spot, and that's the one thing I'm kind of waiting on. I like the defense a little bit more when they do get Porzingis in, but the Celtics are 5-2 to the under in home games this season, including 4 straight unders as well, and they're allowing just 108 points per game in those games at home when they're favored. They're also 5-1 to the under in home games when the total is greater than 234. So 234 seems like to be a threshold where, if the total is set that high, then they do a lot of scoring, but they typically hold their opponents under. We know that this game means a lot as far as the conference with the in-season tournament stuff going on, and the way Jaylen Brown felt like he probably got fouled on the last play in the game that wasn't an in-season tournament game. But yeah, I like it for those reasons. I also, just from a career perspective, I want to send you something real quick to look at. But and one more thing I want to mention just is in those games where the Celtics were home favorites and they were the total was greater than 234, they're 5-1 to the under. Those games are staying under by an average of 15 points per game. So this is typically when you see the Celtics defense really step up and play well, and it wouldn't surprise me if they were able to do so. Just kind of pick up where they left off yesterday against the Pelicans, where I think the Pelicans scored like 16 points in the fourth quarter. I was on the Pelicans, and I was really, really scared. But yeah, I want to send you this real quick, RC, just so you can look at, just so you can pull this up. And what the query pretty much says is that in the most recent game, it went over, but now the total is adjusted lower than the previous total.
So it's similar to the if you know, you know.
To free out what Ski puts up, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's right, it is, but it's not within that. And the reason why I didn't say it in that term, because it doesn't matter like when the last game was. These teams haven't played in a long time, but it's just saying that the total they should be kind of similar, but the total has actually dropped. I think that last total was like 249, 246 or something, 240, 249, close to 250. And so now a couple, I think maybe a month has gone by, and you see the total come down a lot. So I like the under here as well.
And that last game, I think, was like a 260 some odd points they played in Indiana. I think that was a game that Jason Tatum didn't play in either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you could just kind of pivot it towards, like Mino said, maybe it's just team total. I haven't gotten involved in this game yet, but that's the way I'm kind of looking. And I do want Porzingis in, because I do think that he helps a lot, especially when Horford has already been rolled out. So
yeah, I know you. So I was looking at that thing that you mentioned with the Celtics and these higher totals. What was it? So I just look at Celtics with a total of greater than 235, right? 10-3 to the under. You see a good chunk of these are, opponents are staying under the team total basically. But if you look at, all right, so we go up here, these higher totals, and I think you said it was home favorite, right? So
yeah, home favorite with 235 or higher, or 234 higher, I think is what I said.
234 higher. Five and 0 to the under, allowing that many. Only one game went over their team total.
It's crazy. They only got 103 points of that span too.
I mean, this is what they do, right? And this is why I think this is the perfect instinct, RC, of like showing why Killer Sports is what it is, because we think high scoring when we think about Celtics, when we think about Pacers, but even if you just go back and look at that team, if you look at the teams that they played in that spot with those high totals, those are like really good offensive teams. The Hawks are in there, which all they do is play offense. You got the Bucks in there, all they do is play offense. So it's some comparable, some great comps I think in there when you're looking at them with those high totals at home games.
Yeah, these high totals definitely. So even just looking at them on the second leg of back-to-backs, these are going over. But once you hit that threshold of the 240 mark, then everything kind of goes to the under. So that full game under does look pretty promising. I didn't really have it much on this game, but it definitely looks like it's the way to go. Has it moved? I feel like it's
moved up. It moved up. Yeah, it moved all the way up. I see. It opened at
probably because of
the
Halley news.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I think it's the Halley news. So it's up 7 points, and I think that's a little too much. Probably a lot of public money coming in because Halliburton's ruled in.
All right. Let me just, before we move on to the next game, I'm just gonna bring up Itachi's trend here. So since 2017, unrested home favorites. Off a win.
It says off a win. They were losing by at least 15.
Losing or they lost?
It says where they were losing by at least 15.
The Pelicans had a lead yesterday.
Yeah, they were up like.
Yeah, they were.
I want to say close to 20.
Yeah.
That be it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so to the over. That's tough.
Can you add like total?
Yeah, well, I mean, like if we look at previous years, it's probably not going to be as high as we.
Yeah, that's true too.
So we look at
there's only one in there. It's like 240. I think.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's kind of tough. Because so your home favorite, unrested, coming off a win. What would you expect? Like, wouldn't you think that?
I would think they would like tighten up the screws on the defensive side, knowing that they gave up that many points.
That's true.
I think also the outlier in this trend is the Celtics don't typically go down by 15 points. So like they may not fit the criteria for the rest of the teams that's on the listed there.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to the Lakers and the Hawks. So this is one game that I did take yesterday. I did take the over last night. It was 247, I believe. So I think
you got 247 last night. I saw it open at 244.5.
Yeah, it was 240. By the time I got it, 247. I don't get my stuff as early as you guys remember. So 240. I think by the time I saw 246.5, I was doing my research, and then when I was ready to go, it was 247. But I think it's up to like what 248.5. Oh wait, it's come back down.
Come back down, yeah.
It's come back down. So I'm still where the number is at right now. But a lot of things that I looked at really. I mean, obviously, if you look at the Lakers. Current form, a lot of overs, right? 23 and team equals Lakers. Current form, we're seeing a bunch of overs here. We know the Hawks are really, obviously an over team, especially when they're at home. One thing that I did look at as well, at home, and their opponent is on the second leg of back-to-back games. So Hawks and home and They're only one game, but look at how many points they scored in that game. 179 points, right? So it's one of those situations where I think the Lakers probably don't need to play much defense. I feel like it's one of those games where they probably could just try to outscore this Hawks team. And the Hawks don't play defense at all, right? So if we go to this page here, we see a lot of that, right? we see these greens here on the average points. Obviously, top five, top half of the league as far as points per game. But I think what helps a lot here is this fast break points. Neither of these teams are really good at defending fast breaks. So you can see here, what is this? The Lakers, right? Second in the league in fast breaks. The Hawks did 27th in the league in defending. Fast break points for the Hawks, not that great, but as if you look at the Lakers side, they don't defend it well. And then second chance points here is an opportunity for the Hawks to get those second chance points. And then I think the biggest one here is points in the paint per game. Third in the league in points per game, paint in the game for the Lakers. And you see the Hawks here 27th in defending it. So I feel like it's going to be like a track meet to me, like, fast break points, points in the paint, second chance points. I know AD is out, but you got guys like Vanderbilt and Hayes who actually run the court a little bit quicker, in my opinion, than AD. Less defense with AD out. So in my opinion, I think the over is still the play. I'm not too sure why. Maybe the under came after AD got officially outed, but I also think that DeJounte and Hunter, the news earlier, they said that they showed up for the shoot around. So hopefully they play. In my opinion, I think the over is still a play in this one. Did you guys have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm with you on the over. I think the first half over as well in this game. I mean, just take a look at its basic home road splits for the Lakers on their totals. They're an under cash cow at home. On the road, they're a heavy over team. I think 15 of the last 16 have gone over the total in their road games for the Lakers. They're also 10-0 to the first half over in their road games as well. So we saw last night against the Rockets, they put up 135 against the Lakers. We saw it in, I think, what was it, double overtime in the Saturday night game against the Warriors. So the only way I could look at was the over. I played the first half over in this game. I'm going to get there probably with the full game as well here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they give up a ton of points. 127.7 at home when it's a higher total.
It's a tough spot for the Lakers as well, right? Was it like third game in 4 nights, and they play Thursday.
Double OT. They had a double OT as well.
They played Thursday, I think, in Boston as well.
Oh yeah, upcoming on Boston. Yeah, Chris, anything on this one?
I mean, really difficult to argue with you guys on the over. I just watched Atlanta give up 125 points to a Toronto Raptors team that didn't have Quickly or RJ Barrett or OG Anunoby or Youcapper. I mean, it was Gary Harrison, the dick guy that came from Duke. Like it was pretty bad, man. So if they can score, I mean, D'Angelo Russell could go out there. It's dropped 35 points in this game. I think that, like you said, RC, I was looking at some lineup stuff with AD on and off the floor, and he is really the only defensive player that the Lakers have in my estimation outside of Jared Vanderbilt. But I just think that increases the pace a little bit more. So the Lakers defensive rating is actually a 110 without AD on the floor across 1,200 possessions this season. But the fact that the big factor is what you guys just kind of talked about already. It's the third game in 4 nights, all on the road. You have the double overtime game as well. And, Houston, who's not even an offensive team, they had 50. I'm pretty sure, watched it because I know you're a Houston fan. They had 50
for the first quarter.
Yeah, they had 50 with like 10 minutes left before halftime.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the game like, wow. So, yeah, with no AD, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a track meet. And I think the Lakers contribute as well. So I won't, dive too much into it. I think you guys covered it already, but that's the way I would look. I would also look towards the Lakers. I know that they could potentially run out of gas in this spot, but I'm not laying points with Atlanta. I don't think that they couldn't beat Toronto. I'm pretty sure they can't beat this Laker team by margin. I think 3-14 against the spread which is the worst ATS team of the season, whether they're at home or on the road, but at home it gets a little bit worse. Still not laying the points with Atlanta, but it makes sense for the Lakers to kind of run out of gas in this spot. But I'd be taking the points plus for the Lakers. I would also wait on this game. It's one of the reasons I haven't played it as far as the side, just because LeBron, like he did say he was going to play last night, but we're not 100% sure if he's going to play. Yeah. So I will wait in that estimation. But those are my thoughts on this one. I said.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Because I think he ends up playing. If he says he's going to play, I feel like he's going to play.
Yeah.
I think it might have been Ski or Jay, but I was watching their show and they were like, they rather believe the player than the like beat reporters and shit like that.
Yeah,
so,
no, me too.
Yeah,
I watched the interview. He did say he said yeah, I'll probably play. It was kind of like that. It was kind of quick. It wasn't like, yeah, I'm definitely playing tomorrow. So I mean, LeBron's like 67 years old, and I don't know if you guys seen that Gray look like it's catching up with him. And he, when you get a little older, you done did a extracurricular activity, and you wake up the next day and you're like, man, I don't know, I might be second guessing that one. So it makes sense to be set out for me with this one too. But and they still got time to to update the injury report. But and like said, they got to look ahead to the Celtics as well coming up. I'm not sure if it's a look ahead, but I know that's gonna be a big game for him.
See how many minutes he played last night.
36, I think, right? And
it
then
was like 36 or 37 last night. Yeah,
and he played like 40 something the game before because of
47. Yeah, he played 47 in double OT, 37 last night.
Mm-hmm.
Him and D'Lo were the high ones at 41. Also, if you just look at basics numbers on their pace for both these teams, I think last 5 games, I want to say they're both top 5 in pace. Season long, I think they're both top 10 as well as far as pace goes. So
top 4 in pace. If I just looked at that, I meant to mention that also. So they're just flying up and down the floor right now.
Yeah, they both go to the free throw line a lot too as well. You can see their free throw right here. So there's a lot of things pointing towards the over in this one. I just stayed away from the side in general, but definitely the over. Let's move on to the next one here. We got the Jazz and the Knicks. So for me, I don't agree with where the total is going. I do think that this is more of an over type game, especially with just some of the statistical interactions that I see with these teams here. Both teams, fast break, both decent in the fast break points, but both allow a lot of fast break points. So another one of those instances where I feel like it's going to be a track meet. Both teams really good at second chance points as well. Offensive rebound percentage, you see second and first. There's a lot of things where we can see both teams really getting extra opportunities to score. Obviously, Randall's out and Mitchell is out. I think that gives more opportunities for the Jazz. So that's the reason why from a side perspective, I would kind of look towards the Jazz side. Maybe I'll look towards their Jazz team total over, especially with the Knicks on the second leg of back-to-back games. Maybe the legs aren't there to play much defense. So for me, I would look towards the over or the Jazz side. What are your thoughts on this one, Chris?
So Will Hardy, as he always does, not always does, but I think the Jazz are like they're like an undisciplined 3-year-old in the sense that they can like do well and kind of stay buttoned up and perform like the way you want them to. Like, don't go in the store and touch that. Stop asking for stuff, But then they have these big letdowns, and yesterday we saw them kind of have that big letdown in Brooklyn. So I think that Will Hardy called them out yesterday after that. He said that no matter what the result is of tonight's game, he does expect those guys to have a total different sense of energy. They turned the ball over. They weren't taking advantage of mismatches, he thought, in his perspective. So I do expect, I noticed this is the last game of a 6-game road trip, typically a spot that I don't necessarily want to back. But I would I think the Jazz are potentially the right side in this game as well. They are healthy. You got OG Anunoby, who is still listed as day-to-day. We haven't got an update, and I'm kind of waiting on the news. I think if OG doesn't play in this game, I think it's a Jazz spot, even though I don't necessarily want to back him in this spot. I think the difference is that they didn't have to travel far, just across the bridge, right? Like, they were in Brooklyn last night, and now they're going to be in Madison Square Garden. Whereas for Charlotte is 600 miles away from New York, right? So they had to catch a flight last night. Now, granted, none of those players had to play deep into the fourth quarter, but I just feel like, they're missing bodies. They're missing too many bodies, especially if OG doesn't go in this game. Yeah. And as far as the total, RC, I was conflicted on the total. I do agree with, I agree with it coming down, because I think if anything, we see Thibodeau kind of just slow the offense down. The Knicks can play at that really slow pace, and it kind of correlates, RC, with what you talked about with taking that team total, even though you did it against Charlotte yesterday. It's great. But it kind of correlates. They don't have to score points to win. We've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks since you bought Les Cap back, right? The Knicks win. They win with defense. They can grind out this game and win like 112 to 112 to like 109 or something like that. I know that the Jazz typically score a bunch of points, but the thing when we talk about RC, and you remember you took Denver, right? You took Denver team total under when they were at Madison Square Garden last week when we did a show. You remember that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The reason you did so was because they were on the last game of that road trip, and typically that's more of a flat spot for your offense, right? So I do agree with the total kind of coming down. Not enough for me to get involved right now because I do want the status of OG Anunoby before I play this game.
So if we're looking at the Knicks here, especially in January, right? A whole bunch of unders, a whole bunch of wins, a whole bunch of covers. With me looking towards the Jazz here, I think it really has to do with just fatigue situation, right? Obviously, they're dealing with injuries and the second leg of back-to-back games, right? Jazz, they're fully healthy, right? They got a deep roster now that everyone's fully healthy. Their second unit is very strong. With this being on the second leg of back-to-back games, wouldn't you think that the minutes, I wouldn't say minutes restrictions, but they would have more healthier bodies on the court at more times during the game than the Knicks, in my opinion, right? Especially from guard play. And then the bigs, no Randall there, no big bodies other than Hartenstein that can really, limit second chance points and points in the paint. But not only that, if Anunoby doesn't play, the perimeter defense would struggle too, in my opinion. And the Jazz have a whole bunch of shooters. So that's kind of the reason why I kind of look towards the Jazz here. I think more throughout the game, when Brunson's not in there, I don't know where that offense is going to come from, in my opinion. And if he already played second leg of back-to-back games with travel, and they got Pacers on deck, right, which I feel like would be a more important game to them. I just got to look towards the Jazz, and the over really has to do with some of the statistical interactions. I feel like this is going to be a quicker pace game than what we normally see with the Knicks. So that's obviously the number came down away from what I think I expected it to go, but I still do think that the over is the right play and the Jazz is the right play. Any other last comments? Anything on a like from props perspective?
You take a look at last night for Utah. They didn't have any starter play more than 27 minutes. Lauri Markkanen played 27. John Collins had 21. Colin Sexton 24. The guy off the bench, Keontae George, 27 was the most minutes. Jordan Clarkson 23. So, just goes right into what you mentioned there, RC, that with the bodies that the Knicks don't have right now, possibly without OG, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, that this team healthy, I think they'll still be able to put some points here. And I think that depth of coming off of the bench for the Jazz, I think that might just be the difference in this game. And looked at this line when it opened, I was like, why is this only -4? It felt kind of fishy to me. So I think the Jazz is probably the right side here.
This is crazy. So I looked at home and non-conference. They've been winning and covering these games, going under. I just don't know if I could really trust that right now, just with how their roster makeup is and the situational spot. Right, this is the only one where they're on the first leg of back-to-back games. Obviously, like I said, Jazz also on the second leg, but they're just a lot more healthier right now. All right, let's move on. Any last comments on this one or not? No. Okay, let's move on to Raptors Bulls. Also had a play on this one. I did take the Raptors team total under 110. I still think that's the right play. I don't know if the line has actually shifted. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But Munaf, what do you got on this game?
Yeah, I took a look at, or I did play the Bulls team total over 116.5 in this game. And you take a look since they traded OG Anunoby to the New York Knicks, like we just talked about, their defense has just fallen off a cliff. And especially in their road games, they're profitable towards the over in those spots. But when you take a look since January, I wrote this down, and they've given up at least 116 points in 6 of the 7 games. The only team that didn't score that many was the Grizzlies, who obviously know that are dealing with so many injuries. But in 5 of those 7 games since that trade, I think they've given up 120 plus points. And you just take a look what they're just giving up on the road this season, RC. It's just I felt like this number was a little low for the Chicago Bulls. Even without Zach LaVine, I still think they have enough offensively to compensate. Obviously, with DeMar DeRozan, Kobe White, Nikola Vucevic still in there for you as well. So I took the team total over 116.5 for the Chicago Bulls in this game.
Yeah, I was looking at the spread for the Bulls here. I think the only reason why I stayed away from the spread was sort of the situational spot for them. I think they're the first game home off a 3-game road trip. I think also first leg of back-to-back games, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah,
Both
that yeah.
Those are the two reasons why I stayed off of the spread and really focused more so on the Raptors team total, because we know, so obviously the Bulls, momentum-wise, they're doing a lot better offensively and defensively. The Bulls without Levine are a lot better defensively as well from the perimeter. I think one of the issues with the Bulls is they were allowing a lot of 3-pointers, and they were allowing a high rate as well. But when Levine is not in the lineup, they actually limit 3-pointers. I think they allow like 3 or 4 less threes per game when he's not in the lineup, especially when they're at home. So if we go Bulls and home and Levine here, they're 8-3 straight up, 8-3 ATS, but they're also limiting. Killer's taking a lot of time right now, but they're also limiting points in that spot as well. The other thing to mention as well, I think if we look at the Raptors, obviously they're going to be missing Barrett. IQ is officially questionable, I believe, or doubtful. But from doubtful from what I've seen or what I've seen on some reports, we're saying that he's definitely not going to play tonight. So that's going to be missing a lot of offense. And I know the Bulls are in a bad spot as far as like offensively, but I think defense and pace continues the same way, right? 30th in pace in the league. Defense, I think last 10 games are top 10 or something like that, or somewhere around there. So I gotta say, I gotta think that the Raptors stay under their team total. The Bulls team total over makes a lot of sense with how the Raptors have been playing as well. But for me, just kind of, I just didn't like the situational spot. Chris, what are your thoughts on this one?
Man, it's not really an attractive game, and not necessarily because you can't make money in it. But I did my show yesterday, and afterwards, probably like around like close to like 6 p.m. Eastern time, this line had opened on DraftKings with the Bulls laying 1.5.
Yeah.
And I actually went upstairs to eat dinner and take a shower and came back, and it was already up to like 4. And I was like, I was just so turned off after that. I was like, I don't even want to look into the game no more, because I could have got a money line -1.5. But I think it's still a pretty good spot for the Bulls. The two things you mentioned, RC, kind of kept me off of the spread as well, which was the first game back home. They're flying from Portland. And they did get a win and a cover there. 3-game road trip in this first leg of a back-to-back as well. Looking at the game and kind of handicapping it, it wasn't anything that really jumped out to me. I still think the Bulls can win and cover by margin. I will give you guys just this piece of information real quick. So I'm looking at cleaning the glass, and per cleaning the glass, when the Raptors have played, they've played 283 possessions so far this season without Quickly, who's still listed as doubtful, not officially ruled out. Youcapper, who's also listed as questionable. But if those guys don't play, Quickly, Youcapper, OG Anunoby, RJ Barrett, Pascal Siakam, and Precious Achiuwa, if all 6 of those guys don't play, the defensive rating, they rank 36 in the 36th percentile, which is bottom 1/3 of the league in defensive rating. And that kind of goes to what Munaf was saying. They're giving up 118.1 points per 100 possessions in that spot. And teams are shooting 51.8% effective field goal percentage, which ranks in 91st percentile. So it kind of backs what Munaf's saying about how poor defensively they are. So I would probably be looking towards that way as well, especially if they start off a little slow. I watched this Bulls teams play, and you can just kind of tell Coach Billy Donovan really has them locked in on the defensive end specifically. They trap the ball handler, get the ball out of his hands, and try to make somebody else beat you. And I don't think that they have a lot of those guys that are able to beat them. Plus, the Bulls play at such a slow pace. So, I think the spread is still playable. Honestly, I just haven't gotten there.
Yeah, it's tough to take that number when you had the 1.5. I think I seen a 4.2 yesterday at the earliest, but I wasn't able to dive deep into that before it started to move. I think that's another reason why I took the team total under on the Raptors side. But another thing to mention with these team totals too, I like to see opportunities where one team can limit the other team's like shooting opportunities, right? Like possessions, basically. So if you look at turnovers forced, you see the Bulls here. This is from the season, but 8th in the league in forcing turnovers, and also the Raptors are not a good defensive rebounding team. Offensive rebounding, decent for the Bulls. I actually think it's better when Levine is not in as well. That's another thing that I've seen. I think they average 3 more offensive rebounds a game when Levine's not in there. I think because you get guys like Desomu and Caruso who crash the board as well. So those are things that limit the Raptors' possessions, and obviously with a slow pace, they're probably gonna run the clock a little bit more and all that stuff. So definitely, Raptors team total under is the way that I went with that one. Any more comments on this one, or move on to the last? All right, let's go to the last game here: the Sixers and the Warriors. I didn't have anything on this game. At all. Like I didn't really dive deep into this one. I didn't really like it. I don't like the Sixer spot. Don't even know if Embiid is gonna play. Hopefully he does, because he still only has like what, a handful of games left to be able to get that MVP. And then Warriors as favorites. I don't know if I could back them either. So, what are you guys' thoughts on this one? Chris, let's start with you here.
Yeah, not a game that I put too much into either. I think with Philly losing yesterday and not having the services of their big three, and us not knowing what if they're going to play today. I mean, I definitely can't back them in this spot without those guys. Like Golden State needs a confidence boost to win, but it's really hard to cap the game when you don't know who's going to play. We waited all day to figure out who was going to play, and I think all three of us probably would have thought that at least one of those guys would have played. Yeah. And none of them played, and that was a terrible spot for Portland last night. Second leg of a back-to-back. It was also a 5th game in 7 nights for Portland as well, and they still came out and beat Philly. So if they can do it, then I think Golden State can too. And granted, Golden State hasn't been great, but they are still at the crib. I feel like this team only plays home games now. Like I feel like they never leave. So yet another home game. The more rested team. Based on what we know right now, I think that's the way I would look. RC is laying the points with Golden State, but I can't do that without knowing if the guys are going to play or not. We need Embiid in. You need B-ball Paul to be back on the bench, and you also need Maxey in as well, because Golden State's really been struggling against guards. We see D'Angelo Russell just kind of eat them up. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I can't touch the game without knowing the status of those guys.
So when Maxey sat last game, was it more of like a load management, or do you think he was really injured? Because I wasn't too sure. Because
I think he was injured. He's young. Like I don't think they really have a reason to sit him. It said that he was downgraded to out based on that ankle injury. So yeah, I think it's a real thing. I think it's what kept him out in Denver as well. He probably tried to give it a try, and probably just wasn't responding well, because Maxey's one of those guys. He doesn't sit often, right? Like we see Maxey, if he can play, he's typically out there. So those are my thoughts. What you think,
Yeah, I thought that either 2 of the 3 guys would play last night. I know Tobias Harris early in the day yesterday said he's going to try to play. He ended up playing last night, but I honestly thought that Embiid would sit last night, thinking that he would play tonight against the Golden State Warriors, where I think it's a pretty good matchup for him. But it seems like this ankle injury or whatever he's dealing with is a little more serious than maybe people are thinking, versus it being an injury management thing, because like you guys mentioned, he only can miss 5 games before he can't be in consideration for the MVP anymore.
Yeah,
the odds are starting to reflect that now. He's down to plus 450, or I should say up to plus 450 for his MVP odd. Now Nikola Jokic is the leader for MVP. So like you guys mentioned, I didn't have much for this game either, just not knowing who's going to play. But I mean, if Embiid gets ruled in, I think I do like the over in this game, because you take a look at home games this season for the Warriors, they have been trending towards the over. I think that Joel Embiid definitely has an advantageous matchup here tonight inside the paint against his Golden State Warriors team. I don't think Kevon Looney, or if it is Draymond or whoever matches up on Joel Embiid, I don't think they're going to be able to stay in front of him here tonight. And I think the pace will be up in this game here as well. And like you guys mentioned, Warriors don't play a lick of defense, especially at home. So I would look at the over if Embiid and or Maxey play in this game.
Yeah, the over makes sense to me. I just did see something though that kind of pointed towards the under, but so Sixers on the road on the second leg of back-to-back games. But I mean, if the guys that didn't play in the last game do play today, I would assume that they're a little bit more rested than what people expect. So I think it's going to be key to understand the status of Maxey and Embiid here. before you do anything with the total. In my opinion, I don't know where to go with the spread either. This is such a tough game. I just can't back the Warriors as home favorite. It's just 6-13 ATS. Let's look at these smaller lines. See, they're losing these outright. You know, these short lines here. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I could back the Warriors in this fight. I think I would look towards the Sixers. Damn, look at those team total overs too in this spot.
I see. Add the line less than 5. Like they just need to win by less than 5. Ooh, okay, 9-1 to the over. There we go.
Yeah.
Opponent team total 9-1 to the over. Okay.
Yeah. I would assume that these probably went over in regulation, so 12.8. Well, they went under in that one. So they would have been. This one would have been under too. So if they didn't go into OT, it would be 7-3 to the team total over for the opponent. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna take anything on this game here. All right, so that's the 5 games here. We got a few people in the chat. We do have that one thing that I wanted to bring up on a whenever I do the show. If you guys have any questions, the SDQL question of the day, anything to bring up, how to do something, or if something is possible to do in SDQL, just put that in the chat real quick. And then while you guys bring that up, I do want to also ask. I know Ski does this too, but you guys can drop your guys' best bets. I mean, you guys could always come back to the chat and look back and see how you guys do and all that stuff too. So, Munaf or Chris, do you guys have any questions on SDQL or how to do something, or you want to look up anything specific?
I didn't have anything that's off of the top of my head right now. I don't know if Chris had anything.
Man, I always got something. I see. Let's look at you can teach me this too. I think I know how to do it, but I haven't really looked at it a lot. So I want to see if we can find maybe not today specifically, maybe not populate, but how we talk about adjusted totals. So maybe a team is is getting a total for a game that's 5 or 6 points higher than their regular total, or 5 or 6 points lower than their regular total. You know what I mean? You know how to do that?
Yeah. So we go the average total for the year is so we go minus the current total of the game.
Sure. Just explain whatever it is that you put in. It's be a lesson for us all.
Let's just go season. All right, so this says the average total for the team, right, minus the current total is greater than 5. So that means that it went down, right, from their average. So if their average is 230, right, for instance, for the year, if their average is 230 for the year, and you minus the current total greater than 5, so that means it would be less than 225 basically. So you're saying that it shifted down from their current average of the year. So that would say it says, I mean, it's not a huge advantage, but it goes towards the over. Let's see a bigger number here. All right, so this means the total shifted 10 points lower than their season average. That's one of those things that some of us say low total for a reason type of thing.
Right.
Yeah. So if it goes down and you're like, oh shit, this looks hella crazy. Well, why is
going down for a reason?
Why is it down so much? It's probably down an under game for a reason. So it leans towards the under in that aspect there. That makes.
What about if we wanted to go higher? What if it was 10 points higher? We would just change the greater than.
We would just go the other way. So we go less than. So negative 10.
Negative 10.
Negative 10. So you would want to go the opposite way.
And that trends towards
the over a little bit, but the under is more apparent than it is the over. So that That's one way to look at it. Let's see. There's a couple.
Lakers Hawks from there.
Yeah. So S=0. It doesn't help it at all. Yeah. All right. Well, that's how to do that. So if you want to see, I mean, that's one way. It's sort of like not a trend, but more so like I guess it's a statistical, not a statistical interaction, but it makes sense to look at that way, especially the way that we just looked at it towards the under. So you want to cap games and use that as a system. Like anytime you see that, initially lean towards the under, then dive deeper to see if you agree with it or not. That's kind of how I do it. I'm not sure if Chris does it that way, but I usually find these higher level systems that are very active and then kind of dive deeper from there. All right, let's go on to the best bet section here, or top looks. Munaf, let's start with you. What are your top looks that you want to leave for the viewers?
Yeah, let's. That first game we talked about, I think Chris was in agreement with me. Celtics Pacers under the total there. For all the reasons that we did mention, not going to regurgitate everything. Also, it did like the Bulls team total over the 116.5 as my top play as well. Do you have a question? I don't know if you want to do the college teams, their abbreviations work for killer, because that was a question I did have as well. That was one thing that I was looking for college.
Yeah, let me bring that
I need
up.
that too. I need that too. Man. Show me the money.
Go ahead and keep going, and I'll bring that up right after.
Were you done with your best bets,
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Okay. For me, it's just that under that we kind of talked about. I think that's my favorite look on the board. I think, with the injury news and, players getting rolled out, I'm very, very light value right now. I also mentioned this, and I'm interested to get your thoughts, and RC as well. I was reading Paulo Banchero's quote after Orlando lost to the Memphis Grizzlies on Friday night. Mm-hmm. And he said, we as a team, we have to get back to communicating. We have to get back to playing Orlando Magic basketball, even though we understand that currently we're in the grind of the season, right? I'm kind of paraphrasing, but he did use grind of the season, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking about, like, when I read that, what resonated to me was, like, a lot of these players, they're looking forward to the next 2 weeks when they can kind of get a chance to kind of reset, recharge. Yeah. We know the All-Star break is like right around the corner, and they're human like us, right? So we have 2 weeks before our vacation. We're going to start, like maybe we, lax a little bit more at work and we're not, playing as hard. So I'm kind of lowering my value because of that. Do you guys agree with that sentiment as far as like, not lowering your value, but like you guys agree with like players like not caring as much, or like how does this time of the year kind of resonate with you guys as far as like making your bets and getting some of these teams in situations where they look really good on paper, but then you see them kind of implode once the game starts?
Yeah, I think there's something to it, right? Because especially you talk about the grind of the NBA season where you're playing so many back-to-backs and there's a lot of traveling involved, and that they want to look forward to having that week off, and they're like, all right, man, and we're human too. It happens with us in our daily work as well. As that, hey, man, it happened to me last week. I'll be honest, man. I was in California last week, and the week prior, I was like, man, just want to get to this vacation, as I was maybe laxing a little bit at work. So especially with these athletes, right? When you're talking about traveling, getting on planes, staying at hotels, you have that daily grind. So I think for some teams, I think for most teams, there's something to it, but there's also teams that want to close out, that are playing really well. They want to go into that All-Star break with momentum, and then coming out of that All-Star break, coming out with, picking up by where they kind of left off. There are only maybe a handful of teams, but I think what you said, Chris, about some of these teams may get a little bit laxed. Depends on is it on the defensive side that they get laxed, and we may see a little bit more overs as we head towards the All-Star break, or is it these big spreads aren't covering for some of these teams, and some of these so these dogs are covering the spread. So I think that might be something maybe we want to look at least in the first 2 weeks of the month of February, or before the All-Star break, and let's see if there's a trend there or not for it. But yeah, that's a great call.
Yeah, to me, it's kind of tough. I was just looking at the Magic in general. I know they were on a tough road schedule the last, December to January. That could be another reason why they were struggling. But also the fact that they didn't have Franz Wagner for a little bit, that kind of, I think Franz was a bigger part of the offense right towards the beginning of the season, and then I think Paolo kind of after he got injured and came back. No, after he got injured, Paolo kind of took the reins, right? Like he was sort of like a one-man team, and then he comes back and he's still trying to be that guy. That's the number one. But I think what they have to do is be cohesive again and to kind of get back to that to what they had originally. But to your point about the going into the All-Star break, I gotta think that they want to go get some momentum going into the All-Star break, in my opinion. But also in the second half of the season is where we start to see more strategic planning on the part of these teams, right? Where do they rank in the playoffs? Who do they have to beat within the divisions, shit like that, And so that's where we're going to see a lot more rest stuff that we've been kind of seeing more recently, especially when it comes to who was it the other day where they were announced like 30 minutes before the game because the other key player was out for the opponent. I forgot who it was, but it might have been the Knicks or something like that. I forgot it was, but yeah, you're seeing these later players getting called out depending on who the opponent is being called out. So if a team thinks that they're going to be able to win easily without some of these key players, you got to look out for that. And I think that's going to make it harder for us who try to get ahead of the number, right? Because you get ahead of the number because you have your projections and your models and shit like that, but all of a sudden that goes away when someone is called out, announced out right before the game. So I think that's one thing to be more wary of in the second half of the season. My bad. Did you drop your best bet?
Yeah, I talked about the under in the Boston and Indy game. The only thing I took so far, and I was just saying that, based on the injury report, like we still don't know OG news. We still don't know about the Philadelphia 76ers. So yeah, just kind of treading lightly tonight.
Yeah. Got you. Okay, so for me, the Raptors team total under 110, or I don't know what it is right now, but I gave it out at 110. Then I also took the over in the Lakers game.
Yep,
I feel like that's still it came back down to where I got it at 247, so should still be good to go. I know I saw it at 248 and a half, 249 earlier, but I think the news of 80 being out kind of shifted that possibly. But those are the two that I like, and I'll give out to the clients. But real quick, going back to Blaze's question. Let's go here. So there's no real easy way to do this, right? So especially with college, because there's like, I don't know, like 300 teams or something like that. So
yeah.
You're gonna have to kind of work around it, right? So most of the time, like you could just pick any team, but if you just go and it doesn't come in order right away. But what you want to do is hit query, and it'll put it in alphabetical order. Then you find the team that you want, right? So you got Akron here, you got Alabama, and all that stuff. So things that are like questionable, right? So you're gonna want to see Alabama, and I'm pretty sure this is Alabama A&M probably.
Mm-hmm.
But what you want to look at is if you have a question and you don't know if it makes sense to you, you can always go to that team and figure out who they're playing, right? And then the only time you get fucked up on this is if both of the teams are jacked up. But most of the time you'll know, right? It'll be they're playing against Georgia or some shit like that. So that's the way that I do it. Obviously, there's no, like I said, there's no easy way to do this with how this killer sports is set up, but you just gotta find workarounds, right? So, yeah, no easy way to explain it, Blaze. Hopefully, this helps a little bit to kind of work your way around, figure out which teams is who. All right, well, that's it, guys. That's the end of the show. Thanks to all who tuned in, man. Appreciate everybody. I know Chris puts this on his YouTube channel as well, and I'll always also have this on Twitter. Mina, thanks for coming in. I know I asked you this morning or maybe last night. I don't know. Chris, as always, appreciate you coming on as well. Also, we dropped our best bets, our top looks, but I think the most important thing is the information that we give you guys, right? The queries, the trends, teaching you guys how to do this on your own. Because really, at the end of the day, you guys are the ones placing those bets in there. And that's the reason why I always say, whether you fade us or follow us, it's on you guys to make that call. So, guys, good luck with our reaction. Until next time, peace.